afternoon, everybody. What a great session so far. We're now going to move from the automobile industry to the fashion industry. Fast fashion this afternoon, as well as slow fashion. So fashion, what an industry. Some say it's having an existential crisis. There are big challenges and there are big questions. Would young consumers rather spend their money on traveling or buying a bicycle rather than on a new outfit? What are the new ways of consuming? And what are the new ways of selling? Anybody for live stream shopping? Apparently all the kids are doing it. And is the fashion show still relevant? Marco, one for you. How should the industry utilize artificial intelligence? As a means to preventing overstocks would be a very good start. And what happens when Extinction Rebellion tries to shut down the London Fashion Week? To discuss some of these topics and a whole lot more, we will shortly be hearing from the broadest of industry perspectives and a very short collective fireside chat. So I would like to invite to the stage Nadja Swarovski, Executive Board Member of Swarovski. Nadja. Vittorio Radice, Vice Chairman La Rinascente. Sara Ferrero, the CEO of Valextra. And Issa, CEO and Fashion Director of Tank. Before we hear from our panel, we are having a short video interview and some valuable insights from Asia with the founder of K11, Adrian Cheng. Take it away, Adrian.
I don't think traditional malls will have any future anymore because it's only a box and also and shops. I think the necessity of going to a mall just to shop and buy things, there's a lot of outlets and there's a lot of channels that you can fulfill that purpose. What we think we should think of is thinking of curating a space. A space can do anything. So K11 is a symbol. We already have a K11 office, which is K11 Atelier, which is the new office brand. We have our own hospitality called K11 Artus, A-R-T-U-S, Art Domus, which means art home. It's a service apartment, hospitality service apartment, first ever in Asia. We also have our K11 design store, K11 beauty store. So it becomes more like a lifestyle, a symbol, and a way to live. A few years ago, people treat Asia as a marketplace. But for the last 2 years, Asia becomes a creativity hub. If you see creativity from Thailand, from China, from different areas, Asia has been growing in creativity, in design, in trends. You will see a lot of innovative, novel types of fashion trends and fashion design in Asia. So moving from just marketplace or big market, it becomes a creativity hub. And I can see that in the next 5 and 10 years because new designers coming out and new brands actually spending the money in really relating and talking to the millennials as well. For Europe, I think, of course, creativity, the fashion history has been embedded very, very deeply. The crucial part for Europe is the craftsmanship. I think the craftsmanship is something that I don't think anyone can find anything anywhere in the world. Because you go to Italy, you go to Paris, those craftsmanship, those artisans have spent many, many decades, many, many generations to create that level of maturity in their skills. And I think that is something that's very high barrier of entry. Asia, they do look at craftsmanship, but they also look more on the design level. So you have to be much more fast moving. And then the marketplace, e-commerce, it's so extremely mature in Asia. You're able to buy anything online, so which means you can also replace things online, replace things easily. You get access to new lookbook so quickly through the e-commerce platforms. So from China, you can have Alibaba. You have social media e-commerce like Xiaohongshu. You have in Indonesia. You have Tokopedia. You have Lazada. You have different types of e-commerce platform that you're able to access to that you can always change look. They're here to really immerse into the entire Silicon Valley of culture. So you can come to experience our Urban Biodiversity Museum with a 2-hour tour learning about green sustainability and how food cycle and also butterflies. You can also come to learn about our floral art. We have 8 cases of floral art, which we mix with art and flowers and creating something that is one-of-a-kind art installation. You can learn about that as well. You can come for high tea. You have Fortnum Masons with artisan lounge with different types of high teas that you can learn about. You can sit here for 3 hours enjoying all the beautiful architecture and just communicate and talking to your friends. Or you can always learn about our artisanal objects in each shops that we select. Each shops, even though it will be a lot of branded shops, but each shops is going to have their own limited editions, their own one-of-a-kind store design, and also special products that celebrates creativity and also craftsmanship. Shops or brands will work closely together with the physical space so that they can co-curate the entire space together. So from the shop design, from the objects and the products that they offer, the more we talk together to align our vision, the better. Because the energy, the ambience, and the experience or the entire immersion of the customer when they go to the space will be much more impactful and much more aligned. And in that sense, they will make more money. At the same time, they will also exhibit and demonstrate their brand value much more stronger along with my brand value. I'm not very worried about the future, and that's why I'm building up to 36 K11 by 2024 in 9 cities in China. The 36 will varies from K11 Atelier, the office, K11 Artist, the service apartment, or K11, which is the retail space. All we will be creating a journey of imagination and curating something beyond experience. But the most important thing that we have set up here is the K11 Craft and Guild Foundation. I set up the K11 Craft and Guild Foundation 2 years ago to preserve and also to conserve the fast disappearing Chinese craftsmanship. For example, in Guangcai. Guangcai is a technique, a hand-painted technique in porcelains and ceramics as well. And we try to conserve that. And currently there's only 100 artisans in China doing Guangcai. And we try to do documentation, video exhibitions, and also try to do apprenticeship programs for them so that they can pass on their techniques to the next generation. And most importantly, is also expose these beautiful artisanal objects to the world. It's about conserving, preserving a history of mankind, and also conserving and preserving some human touch. And I think that's also very important. I'm a little bit worried on one thing. And that thing is that people are starting to forget because, you have social media, you have technology, everything is fleeting and fast. People are losing the affinity towards the idea of authenticity. and the integrity of truth of things. And I think that we need to really go back to simplification. We need to simplify and detox and starting to look back on who you are, what the world is doing, and what is the integrity and authenticity of every single thing. The hopeful side is that I think the new millennials, the new generations, loves creativity and loves culture, and they love to know more. And when you're curious or you have curiosity, you have growth.
Wise words from Adrian, an ambitious young man. 36 K11s in the next 5 years. We like that, ambition. Nadja, could you tell us more about Swarovski, the past, the present, and importantly, the future?
Thank you. Wonderful to be here, and I have to say I'm really not an expert in terms of fashion or digitalization, so I can tell you the story from the Swarovski point of view and from our experience over the last 120 years. What I found so interesting about this time period, the digitalization, was really the time period of my great-great-grandfather Daniel Swarovski, who was really living in the industrial age. And what he experienced back there was the tremendous fear that humans had of the machine, and the fact that the machine might actually dehumanize the world. But in the case of Daniel Swarovski and many other companies, the opposite happened. He was a glass cutter in Bohemia, which is indigenous to glass cutting, and he went to the first electricity fair in Vienna in 1862, where he saw machines by Edison and Siemens, embraced these machines, and sped up the entire crystal making process. He was able to create crystals faster, with greater quality, in greater quantity, but most importantly, he was able to make women know what it feels like to wear a diamond. Suddenly, people could afford to wear something beautiful, to adorn themselves, to express themselves, and to empower themselves. And certainly that's the motto that we're trying to carry forward into the 21st century. But with the creation of this crystal jewelry stone, he then very quickly, this is not working. Do I have to hold this somewhere?
Green is correct.
Here we go. Supplied handcraft, namely the couturiers in Paris. Here, the first customer of his was Worth, which was a British couturier based in Paris, carefully embroidering the crystals into, for example, the first customer, which was Queen Victoria. And for us, it was a beautiful example to see the crystals on the gowns while Queen Victoria was also wearing her beautiful diamonds. Eventually, the flapper era happened. It was all about female self-expression. Women cut their hair. That meant there was more room for sparkles on the décolleté. And women started to smoke, to do sports, to dance. Again, crystal was a very powerful means of self-expression. Eventually, the style icons happened, really. The first big couturier, Christian Dior, who worked hand in hand with my grandfather, Manfred, to create special stones such as the stone Aurora Borealis, which today still is our best-selling stone, but it shows, you know, how important it was to get the vision of the fashion designer with the industrialist who was working with the machines. Fast forward also in the movie industry, suddenly the silver screen went to color. We've had the honor to work with people like Marlene Dietrich, Audrey Hepburn, at Breakfast at Tiffany's, her beautiful tiaras, the beautiful jewels that were meant to be diamonds that were actually nothing but Swarovski crystal, but we enabled that expression of creativity on the screen. We're very proud to be part of Marilyn Monroe's super act for JFK, which then translated to Rihanna's extraordinary outfit when she won the Icon of the Year award of the CFDA Awards. Moving to the later part of the last century, we encountered Isabella Blow, who was an incredible fashion art historian. She certainly recognized the power of creativity of crystals. She reintroduced us back to the catwalk by introducing us to amazing people like Alexander McQueen, here the second slide, who truly used crystal as yet another creative ingredient among the other creative ingredients that are used, from leather to metal to wood to plastics, and really used the essence of the material to its highest power to express the creativity. We've had amazing examples of entering the digital era with Hussein Chalayan. This is a digital dress that you see here by him. It actually played a video on this LED screen. And then working with designers, fashion designers, but actually artists like Victor and Rolf, who painted the crystal in black paint, thus emphasizing the power of the geometric shapes. This is a beautiful installation that was seen at the V&A. It was at that time when the Alexander McQueen show took place, the most successful show at the V&A, which now has been just recently superseded by the Dior exhibition, which again, in terms of fashion art history, is such an important show, and I really truly hope it will influence the new generation of designers and take them back to the seriousness of designing and really the art of fashion design. However, we have supported many designers who have truly modernized and embraced the future. Alexandre Routier, who was a young student who it's been such a pleasure to watch grow and evolve and go from prêt-à-porter to haute couture. We're working with Merike Trans, who again, once the young kid on the block, and now a very established designer, couturier, also becoming very sustainable while not compromising the art of haute couture. We're working with a young French designer, Kevin Germanier. We are giving him our used crystals, which he is upcycling into his fashion. And that's something that we're certainly seeing and encouraging more and more with emerging talent. Often used crystal is so undamaged, it's still absolutely perfect to use. And certainly what I've heard this morning, I think we should also integrate used crystal in our chandelier designs or our own jewelry designs. And then we have Iris van Erpen, who is just really embracing modernity with her 3D printing and again, the use of modern and new materials. Again, the young designers are embracing communication totally differently. They're embracing the concept of the fashion show differently. They have limited funds to have fashion shows, but they certainly can create digital content to reach even more people than come to the fashion shows. We work very closely with design schools today. We have the motto that the student of today is the designer of the future, but what we were also doing with the design schools that we're supporting is we're really emphasizing sustainability. So these are the programs that we're supporting to really use energy, materials, reusability of fabrics in a more considered way towards the planet. Here's another example of these fabulous young designers just using their own self-confidence to curate their own content and to be their own editors, so to speak. We see the same transformation within chandeliers. We had the honor to decorate Versailles with Swarovski crystals for the traditional chandeliers. Here are some examples of the more modern ones. The chandelier on the far left is a chandelier created by the Bourelec brothers for Versailles. It's the first permanent contemporary installation. The chandelier is extraordinary because it lights up as it gets dark outside and it dims down as it gets light outside. So it's absolutely interactive with the environment, and it therefore can also have a better impact within this building. And the Bourelec brothers are so educated in terms of design and art, and their very contemporary installation in this traditional building is so respectful towards the past, towards the historic element of this building here. It is a wonderful symbiosis. Some of you might remember Ron Arvad's chandelier that was connected to a SIM card so you can send text messages. It actually exploded after a while because too many people tried to communicate to this chandelier. Very good example of, again, the greater digitalization actually leading to a greater humanization or human interaction. Then we have the second image from the left is or from the right is an outside installation by the Bourelec brothers. It's an extraordinary installation because it combines glass, water, and lighting technology in one. I was very honored that this chandelier was untouched, or this fountain was untouched. It happened that we installed this at the same week of the very aggressive rebellion took place on Champs-Élysées, where a lot of the stores were destroyed. Among some of the stores was also the Swarovski store, but this fountain was absolutely untouched. And the message to us is that this is really an example of bringing art to the public, making it very democratic and enhancing the beauty of the environment. And then the first image you see here is actually Again, a very technological crystal installation which contains light underneath the crystal, so as you touch it, the crystal lights up. Again, here are some examples of the modernization and the reinterpretation of the chandelier, which we actually started with Ilse Crawford, who is here and who will speak later. And it was so fascinating for us to ask various designers to reinterpret the chandelier. And we got these amazing examples of designers which truly expressed their own spirit and their own creativity. And to us, it really demonstrated the creative merit of crystal. In terms of digitalization for our retail stores, I'm so proud to say that we've worked with Patricia Uggiola on the digitization of our stores. We're definitely seeing a greater interaction, certainly geared to the millennials. We have various different mirrors, which make the customers feel like they are truly in a backstage situation. We are now also training our salespeople to be stylists and to educate the customer how to use the crystal. And then, of course, we have our various different photo booths and so on. So the digitalization really is a greater showcase and interaction for the consumer. We just opened the store, and in the first week, we saw an increase of 70% in terms of sales, which shows you, the impact of the digitalization to the customer. In terms of business to business, we've created a new e-platform where customers can buy in smaller quantities and get direct delivery from us, which has had a positive impact. And in terms of sustainability, we need a lot of water to cut our stones. So we've created 20 years ago a water school, which is active in South America, North America, China, Africa, India. We teach and we support the teachers that are teaching students about water, whether it's scarcity, pollution, sanitation. And it's been amazing to see that the side effect of teaching these children about water is the incredible increase of self-confidence and greater awareness about the environment and how they as individuals can actually have a very positive impact on their environment. We're very proud to have our water school film on Netflix, but I just also wanted to show some other examples where the impact of celebrities are certainly being heard, or the voice is being bigger and stronger around the world through the interactions and the voice that they're lending to organizations such as the nature conservation. Moving forward, again, the power of celebrities. We've had the honor to work with Penelope Cruz as a voice for Swarovski sustainability, in particular in relation to created diamonds. We've embraced created diamonds as an answer to sustainability. Of course, we appreciate diamonds, especially if they're sourced sustainably. But in this case, as a master cutter, we've embraced the created diamond because we really appreciate also the technology that's behind it. Besides the created diamonds, we're also teaming the jewelry pieces up with fair trade gold. And again, this is really something that has to do with the circular economy. The mine that we're sourcing from is actually an alpaca farm in Peru. The miners are farmers, and they're taking the proceeds from their mine and reinvesting it into their alpaca farm. Our manufacturing plant in Austria is green. We are a Responsible Jewelry Council certified organization, and we really always talk about the triple bottom line, the 3 Ps, people, planet, and profit. And we believe that all 3 can be targeted at the same time. In terms of marketing, we want to take advantage of our retail stores to educate our consumers about our values. Our values are those values about preserving nature. We're using celebrities as spokespeople of our values, and we're moving forward with cause-related marketing. So here we have Penelope Cruz creating her floral collection, and proceeds of that floral collection will go to the nature conservation in Brazil for the reforestation program. We're also working with the designer Susan Rockefeller. She's created a bamboo collection. Again, proceeds of that will go to the Nature Conservancy in China for reforestation, and we have a beautiful sea life collection, and proceeds of that will go to the Environment Fund, focusing on the Caribbean and the Mediterranean at the moment. So we are educating our consumer about the various different institutions that are doing something very proactively about preserving the environment. We've also created the Swarovski Award for Positive Change in the various different organizations, such as the CFDA or the British Fashion Awards, and we're so proud that Franca Sozzani won this award, who had such a huge impact on humans, but also on the environment in relation to the fashion industry. Just a few weeks ago at the UN in New York City, we've launched a 1x1 program, which again teams up young fashion designers with various different organizations who are sustainably minded. And evolution keeps on going. That is the motto from Daniel Swarovski. And I can only appreciate how he embraced the Industrial Revolution, and certainly people in my generation of this family business, namely the 5th generation, are here to embrace the digital era, but to really make it work for us and don't necessarily become slaves to the digital era. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadja. Thank you. Extraordinary breadth of work, both creatively and environmentally. So next up, Vittorio. Let's have a fast and furious intro to the future of retail from a La Rinascente perspective.
Hello.
4 minutes.
You know, Diane invited me to speak. And then the first picture he puts up is a store closing down. Thank you very much. I'll invite you next time for dinner, and then I'll ask you to cook for me. So that's fine. Any case, I like to be a little bit controversial, and that's the first image. Actually, I was undecided to put the first slide or last slide, but I think I decided to put first, so it puts everything into perspective. And if I move on to the next one, with green. You know, at the end is, let's meet, let's talk, let's laugh, let's have lunch, let's have a coffee, let's discuss something. I'm sure that we'll be able then to measure everything. So we'll have a meatometer, we'll have a laughometer, we'll have a eatometer, and we can measure everything we do in our life. But this is something that we actually miss most of the time, and that's what we dedicate ourselves doing, getting people to meet, getting people to talk, getting people to share things. You know, there's a guy there under one of those market canopies that has got probably 20 Instagram followers, 20 only. But he knows everyone by name. He knows their kids. He knows their parents. He knows the football team they're following. He doesn't have millions of followers. He only has 20. And most of the times when he sells something, he doesn't want to even be paid. He said, take it for free. And at the end, that's what our business is all about. Making people to meet again. I'll show you in a minute slides of 4 buildings. There are 4 places, and are very much a reflection of what the market is all about. Most of the time, we think we go to the market to shop. We don't go to shop. We go to meet people, to show what we bought the week before. Do I look good? Do I look bad? We buy things today to share it with others. And that place provides a platform for people to meet and to share. You know, half of the people here will wear makeup today. They don't wear it for them. They wear it for somebody else. And that's where they go, to show their makeup. This store here is in the Duomo Square. It's been open for over 100 years, like most of all our stores, in Italy, in Germany, in Denmark, etc. This year, for the first time, we will probably reach 12 million visitors. Now, Diane, again, you run a design museum. You know how many visitors you have. Here we have 12 million. And it's the first time ever that probably this year we will reach 12 million. We've always been about 9, 10, 11. We've been growing over the years. And again, our job in the last 10 years has been to transform a store from selling product to a meeting place, to a place where people really enjoy to come, where there is still a smile to be looked at, where there is still a conversation. I'll give you an example of how intensive these places are. I had a visitor, a person at Selfridges, that came to the shop every day. His name was Peter. He was a computer wizard. He won, or he sold his company, made a lot of money. And he was coming to the store every day. And once Chris, who used to work at the stationery department, had to go to the bathroom. And he asked Chris, and he asked Peter to man the till point for a while. So this is one customer operating the till point, selling product on behalf of Selfridges without being paid. Once you reach that, you have a beautiful store. This store is in Hamburg. Again, one of the stores has been 100 years. But I use this image to tell you that in terms of sustainability, we've been investing in city center for the last 100 years. And putting each time millions and millions in those buildings and keeping the city center alive and being the machine, the engine of the city center is a big responsibility and is a big challenge. We've been working with the municipality all over around to make all the stores or the streets around the stores pedestrian, to take the cars away. And most of the time we paid entirely for the repavement of those streets, for the furniture, the trees, and the plantation. We are always the biggest employer in city center. We have a store in Berlin called KaDeWe that has almost more than 5,000 people working in one store alone. We've been training people, we've been educating people. We've been the platform to show new product for the last 100 years. And of course, by doing that, we entertain millions of people. Two more slides. One is regarding a new development in Düsseldorf, where we're taking an old store, been there over 100 years. We're putting 150 million euros each, and David Chipperfield, in fact, I think he was here today, is designing the place, and this is what it will look like. And then last week, we just announced a new store in Vienna, designed by Oma, and this is what it will look for, opening in 2023. Again, when we open this kind of stores, at the cost, this one will cost 200 million, you cannot make mistakes. You know, I always say that we open the air conditioning the first day, and we turn it off 100 years after. And that's a big challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Vittorio. Thank you, Vittorio. Next up, Sara, CEO of Valextra, on rebooting a heritage brand in 4 minutes.
Okay, so I will skip a couple of slides and try to concentrate my intervention in 2 points. That is, okay. So Valextra was founded in 1937, so 82 years ago. But for some reason, a lot of people love it, but it never really managed to go to be a big company like the Chanel or like the Gucci or... So the real point was, why a company that has done beautiful things, that has really been pioneer, and not only in the women bags, but really has the biggest amount of patents, and has really put beauty and innovation at the center for more than 82 years, was not growing. That was my big question when I came here. So I really looked at, in a very basic way, simple way, is like we really always thought about luxury, heritage, and craftsmanship. And that was what we were talking about and really thinking about product. But there was something missing. And somehow we went back and started thinking what makes Valextra something quite unique. And was really about the Vitruvian, the Architettura points. You have to put together beauty, functionality, and durability. If not, something is missing, but today also the emotional touch. And what we did it through a community, which is what I want to share today. So this is some of the people that have participated in the last 3 years to reboot Valextra. We have worked with in more than 80 projects in 3 years. with more than 38 creative people. So Valextra doesn't have a creative director. We have a huge amount of creativity helping us. And these people actually come mostly from the design and architecture world. I just want to show some slides to show what we actually did. Partially, we were inspired. Talk to these people like Tadoando was the first inspiration when I started in 2015 in doing the product. But also at Resozzos, we talked about him. We had our bags were really pure and clean and geometric. And we wanted to do an object that, like the super box of Resozzos, that could somehow create 50 bags, all different, with really crazy colors, where we really wanted to still keep the functionality, but make something really personal, different, and emotional. And this is Franzoni, an incredible person that worked for Valextra, that invented one of the first travel bags that would remind that Renoir today was thrown down the 10th floor of a building to check if it would break or not, and it didn't break. But he really created a product. This was created in 1962, and it actually is still one of the most modern products that you can find around. But now going to a much closer period, here is one of the collaboration we did, both in the store and the product, with Snark Architecture. Very experimental team done by Daniel Arsham and Alex Musanen. Or the collaboration with Beth Wood, where basically she designed the handles. She did like 7 different handles, all made by the same piece, just put together in a different way. This bag was more for a PR, beautiful piece. We sold it out in 2.5 weeks. And it's not a cheap bag at all. This is, again, Issa Castiglioni, one of my favorite architects ever. And again, how we could put together product and story and Milan. And we really start working on a lot of his design and his ideas and try to put together a product that could have the heritage element, but the beauty, but also a sense of today. Kengo Kuma, so last year we worked in an installation that after you will see, and again, he wanted to take the forest in the city, and so we worked on an installation that lasted 1 year, and after he wanted really to translate this in a product, and that's what actually came out. And this is our last collaboration on product. We just finished putting together the project with Michael Anastasiades. Again, the beauty of working with all these people is not just the end product, but is really the process of thinking more like a luxury product, like a house or a design that needs to last forever. Like the problem with fashion often, we have this sense of seasonality. This is from spring, summer 19. This is from autumn, winter 19. Okay, we don't do sales. We don't do discounts. And so these products have to last like a house, like a church. They really have to last for a long time. So how we do this? We actually get the help of these amazing people that have really this way of thinking. So this is our sneaker done with Ross Lovegrove that we actually still have to launch. But it's not only designer or architects, but it can be also incredible companies that have been working for a long time. So this has been a collaboration that we did with Kiso. Kiso is probably the oldest company that does kimonos. They started in the Edo period in Japan. And I went to see them, and I was like nearly in tears for the beauty, and we tried to do some of the bags. And this is just examples. I just want to go quickly in talking instead about space and how product needs also a home. And the idea of Valextra of the home is that the stores are all different. Many people have told me, how do you do every store different? This is because if you have a home of 2 homes or 3 homes, I don't believe you're going to have them all the same. I imagine all your homes are all different. They still talk about who you are, but they respect the place where you are when you're doing it. So this is an example of, the first one was actually made by Martino Gamper, and the idea was the Magnetico. This was another installation that we did with Nilufar the same year. So you can see how very different, but still very Valextra, in the same time very Nina or Gamper. We worked. This, for example, is London. London is in Mount Street, in front of the Claridge. The idea of this store is not to be a performing store, but is a moment of encounter, a place where people feel that they are intimate and there is a sense of home. This is the store that we did with Snark Architecture. The idea was to go in a kind of cloud, in a place of stillness, but all these stores, the interesting part is that allowed the store in Milan, for whoever has seen it, to increase the traffic by 9 times in 3 years. So it's not just interesting and beautiful, it actually attracts and makes people more engaged. This is an example of our store in Chengdu, done by Neri and New. And you see at the top when it was done in 2017. So all these stores, and we took the opportunity to use the hoarding of this store to actually do a performance of a street artist. Now you see this very often in Gucci. We actually did it a couple of years before to try to use the urbanistic approach and be coming with something new and engaging. Finally, this is last year's installation with Kengo Kuma. We talked about the product and how it converted. This is instead the idea of how you can create a forest in the city. All these planks, a lot of people are sustainability. What we did, we actually transformed them now in desks. And so they're all, the 122 planks have been reused for our offices and for offices of people that work with us. Finally, this is Venice, again Martino. This is around Lush in LA, and Max Lamb. And this is our latest store. So after having done so many installations, so many stores, we kind of arrived at full circle. And we feel like today we need to put at the center the product. We asked John to design for us a store that was more of a platform, a gallery where we could change and interact and put anything that we love and we like. And so we are now starting also to commission specific projects and after we sell them. So I'm just going to skip forward. This is the installation that we did with Michael Anastasiades, and the lamp is become a collectible lamp. So we have produced 10 of them and sold 5 to collectors. And again, the idea is to create spaces that can last for a long time. The fact that they are not the same means that people don't get bored. When they go in different cities, they really want to go and see our stores and see what is our new collaboration, what is new, what we are taking in. And the point for us is we're trying to do luxury, we're trying to be timeless, we want to be respectful of our past, but we want to also engage with all kind of age, and we have to do it with creativity, but in the same time with a product and a space and online and everything that can engage. I will leave it to here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sara. I think we all agree a great product deserves a great home. Now over to Caroline Issa, who's going to tell us what the kids are up to.
Thank you, Tony. I'm very honored to be here at Next Design Perspectives. The topic for this, the future of fashion, has been approached by many perspectives, and I'm sure all of you have many perspectives too on this topic, because I would argue that all of us here are in the business of selling fashion. I make and sell magazines, but even if you make and sell cars or coffee or crystals, there's something that connects us all. We're all in the business of selling a want rather than a need. We're selling things that are objects of desire before perhaps they are things of necessity. Of course, in these uncertain times, to talk about the future of anything feels a little bit like a sign of madness. At the same time, fashion has always been about the next big thing, about newness. In fashion, though, the future is really hurtling towards us faster than ever. Our ever more connected world is rightly blamed for this speeding up. Digital communication and information technology has transformed the fashion industry, but they themselves are not immune from cycles of change. As an editor or as a CEO, you invest in Snapchat only to see TikTok sweep it completely aside. You ignore fashion editors for influencers, only to find that influence is atomized to micro-influence. Fashion hesitated too long before it took digital seriously, and we're playing catch-up ever since. At the same time, the very idea of consumer capitalism is facing new challenges, particularly inspired by the growing environmental movement. Did you notice how the Extinction Rebellion, as Tony mentioned, protests impacted London Fashion Week? That could be just a taste of things to come. It means that fashion is in serious danger of becoming deeply unfashionable. Did we see that coming? Relying on data alone can be very dangerous because by its very nature, data is always relaying what's slightly in the past. Marshall McLuhan, a fellow Canadian, said that it's like driving towards the future by looking at the rear view mirror. Potholes can appear from nowhere. Fashion finds itself in a bit of a rut at the moment, like Tony has said. Some want to rely on data, others on creativity and generating desire. I propose that to dig itself out of this hole, the industry needs to rely on both fundamentals, data and desire. These two ideas, apparently at odds with each other, are the two centers of gravity in which the fashion industry finds itself today. Now, let me give you some context about myself and what I do at Tank very speedily. I joined Tank 17 years ago, back in 2002, at a time when independent publishing was being invented. Fashion shows were small, intimate affairs, and the first dot-com bubble had just burst. I'd studied economics at Wharton and had been living the life of a young management consultant in Asia before I thrust myself into the world of fashion publishing in London. Tank has always been experimental in form. We launched in 1998 with the format the size of the palm of your hand. Subsequently, we experimented with other ideas, such as a ring-bound magazine, a supersize magazine, or half of our print run only using words to describe every picture, including the ads. We've always maintained a sense of mission and social commitment. For our 15th anniversary, we commissioned 22 artists to create one-off artworks that we then auctioned with Sotheby's for the charity Women for Women. Now, a mainstream magazine like Vogue, for example, their job is to tell you what's happening, who's important now, what you should be listening to, the fashion of today. Tank, however, has a very different aim. Our job is to speculate with a bit more freedom and with a longer telescope into the future. We ignore the people of now and even of the next. We're looking much further forward. A cursory glance at our 2008 talk section shows people like Brian Boy or the architect Ollie Sheeran, Pharrell Williams, and then a first-time film director, Steve McQueen, who went on to win the Oscars. 6 years ago, we debuted the fashion scan. Let's see if this video is going to work.
Hello, this is Caroline Issa. Welcome to the 3rd issue of Because magazine. It's sort of like a pop-up book for grown-ups, and it helps if you love fashion. It works with iPhones, iPads, and all Google Android devices. You need to download an app which is free and really quick, and you're ready to go. There are targets in every page, and many pages have lots of them.
Hover your smartphone or tablet over any image and scan to get amazing video content.
You get the idea. I'm going to skip over that. I thought that technology was going to revolutionize print publishing, and I was completely wrong. Still time yet. Our job is to constantly speculate about the future. To give you another example, this is Tina, whom we made Tank the first fully audible magazine. Tina is a text-to-speech synthesizer powered by a machine learning algorithm, which means that every time she reads one of our articles, she gets better and better.
Hello, I am Tina, Tank's full-time voiceover artist. In this episode of the Tank podcast, I will be reading...
Just a little example. Go to the website to listen to more. We partnered with The Observer, Britain's oldest Sunday newspaper, to create O by Tank, which was an early pioneer in the now common model of luxury supplements piggybacking on mass circulation newspapers. And alongside the magazine, we launched Tank Form, our creative agency, back in 2002, where we brought together content creation and brand strategy using the lessons we had learned in storytelling to apply to like-minded partners. So I hope I've demonstrated that at Tank, our job is to think about the future by constantly and earnestly sampling it. To quote William Gibson, the future is already here. It's just that it's unevenly distributed. Now, what do I see for the future of fashion? Let me return to the twin ideas I started with, data and desire. Our understanding and use of data have been totally transformed by predictive algorithms. Powered by artificial intelligence, these study our behaviors, anticipate our decisions, and plan a response to it. The uses of big data are limitless and fascinating to any one of us here in the industry. No wonder that big data is so seductive, because it will always give us an incomplete picture. More data isn't necessarily the solution, because what algorithm would have anticipated a designer like Alessandro Michele? If Marco Bizzarro had been a data-driven manager, would he have taken that risk? Data is always wiser after the fact. The poets, the creators, the artists, they are wise before, although they often get it wrong. I believe that human desire has always been impossible to contain, constrain, or limit with all the technologies before it. This is why desire is so important. The desire for more things, though, which has fueled economic growth for centuries, is finally ebbing because of environmental concerns. You don't have to be a fully paid-up member of Extinction Rebellion to appreciate that this sentiment is impacting the goods for every category. Some brands have rejected this and continue to push against the current tide of public opinion, believing that this too shall pass. But it's clear that those who strive to embrace the change by doing their bit or their best to create things with sustainable values are the most likely ones to succeed. The example of carbon neutrality is a case in point, as Marco kicked off this morning. A small designer like Gabriella Hearst claimed to have the first carbon neutral fashion show during New York Fashion Week. Allbirds, a sustainable sneaker startup that makes their shoes out of wool, sugar, and trees, also have a carbon neutral offsetting program within its business model from the start. They also embrace open sourcing of their knowledge, allowing mega brands to learn from them. And obviously, as we heard, Gucci's announcement that this year being carbon neutral through offsetting, and that's had a massive impact on the rest of the industry listening. And yet, while the fashion industry contends with sustainability and the data revolution, how these products connect to consumers from a communication perspective is also undergoing introspection and reevaluation. The last decade has shown the promises of the digital frontier and new global horizons to be fleeting and illusory. The rush to embrace the digital has burnt fingers too. Social media platforms powered by the big tech companies promised direct access to customers. Yet this vision is now being challenged, championed in the mainstream by someone like Elizabeth Warren, who attacks the monopolistic and anti-competitive behavior of these tech companies. It's behavior we know well. For the fashion industry, a platform like Instagram at first appeared like a new high street, thronging with customers with no rent to pay. Yet, we are now finding out that the digital landlords can be every bit as greedy as their counterparts in the real world. As organic reach is being pushed lower and lower, and as the cost of acquisition is getting higher and higher, evaluating where best to meet, invest, and communicate with brand communities is being upended yet again. At least in the real world, you could move from neighborhood to offset those high rents. But in the digital economy, there are usually just a few landlords who own everything. Over the last decade, the rise of the brick economies was a massive boon to the fashion business. Yet after the initial excitement of this discovery, these markets have ended up behaving just like everywhere else. Today, Chinese brands are accessing their domestic markets just as Bollywood, K-pop, and Turkish soap operas have come to compete internationally with Western products to great success. European brands have all found themselves with a whole new ballgame of competition. Now, shifts in behavior operates at many levels. Little did we know that even 5 years ago, the changing room would become the most important and critical place for communal shopping and shaping opinion. The phenomenon of WeChat live stream shopping channels and the power of a unique platform that has secure transactional power connected to the community and social connectivity seems to me to be limitless. Now, here's an example I actually recorded on my WeChat platform channel yesterday. So she's, in fact, in a little room with a bunch of product, live streaming her wearing the clothes. And right on the left-hand side, you can click into that jacket that she's wearing and buy it immediately. Now, this is done actually in China in a warehouse full of these little studios, but they're coming over into the retail department stores like La Rinascente. These changes mean that fashion brands must be alert to the new influencers who share, buy, and transact in that little room with their followers, and who are sometimes making thousands of dollars a day in commission, helping their local followers indulge in your products in Milan, London, and Paris. Now, the changing room is just one example of how influence has been redefined. All of us are wary of numbers now, and with the fluctuating nature of algorithms, matching the right audience to the right product is ever more critical. Isn't it better, like Vittorio says, to have just 1,000 highly super engaged super fans rather than 1 million there passively just looking? And as in the participatory culture of today, brands must be culturally open, sensitive, and vigilant consistently. Now, Gen Z, those aged 16 to 21 today, are ever more suspicious of paid partnerships and the loss of their data by platform capitalism. We see this in their move away from consumption of goods, and instead they're making memories, they're spending time in the real present, buying books, vinyl, travel, and food. Greta Thunberg is their spokesperson, and Billie Eilish, their very hoodie-clad new pop idol. Twitch, they're playing Fortnite in their bedrooms and being connected to their friends miles away. And Twitch recently live streamed the largest ever attended concert by 10.7 million people, where a DJ played a live set. This is where they're spending their time. There are a ton of presentations out there, that emphasize the importance of data and programmatic solutions, and I don't think I can add to them with any sort of level of competence. Everything from targeting customers by big data, using AI to write fashion copy, CRM bots that not only serve and romance consumers, and AR and VR to blend virtual and actual experiences in a hybrid form. None of these can be underestimated. All I can say is that the ability to tell a story with relish, write a clever headline, or conceive a fashion editorial, these are all intangible skills that will always require a human touch and humane approach. Because therein lies the rub. It's only by creating desirable things that you can leverage better ways of talking to your audience, of keeping new things new and exciting. More than ever before, customers are looking for a human touch. The things that we never knew we wanted should be made and packed and sold in a way that doesn't rely on polluting or exploitative behaviors. Now, all technological advances have meant the discovery of more things to desire. Try showing a telephone engineer from the 1990s your iPhone. It's not just a phone, it's a million of other things too. And just as the agricultural revolution didn't mean the end of foraging for truffles, or rapeseed oil didn't mean the end of farming for olive oil, the data revolution and predictive technologies won't fully satisfy the human thirst for new and familiar feelings, beautiful clothes, and substantial experiences. We've never had so many tools to help us, but our most important job remains to imagine. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Outstanding. Desire over data, I agree with that. Please, can we have a big round of applause for Nadja Swarovski, for Caroline Issa, for Sara Ferrero, and Vittorio Radice. Prepare your changing rooms as a retail outlet. Thank you very much.